I've cared for seniors who wake up at 3 in the morning like clockwork, night after night, month after month. And what I've learned after 15 years of overnight care shifts and early morning check-ins is that it's rarely random. Your body is trying to tell you something. I've seen patterns that most people miss. Some are harmless, some require attention. And knowing the difference could change everything about how you sleep and how you age. I know that silence at 3 in the morning. I've been there. I've arrived at clients' homes at 6 or 7 a.m. and found them already awake, already exhausted, telling me they've been up since 3. I've done overnight shifts where I'd hear someone stirring in the dark, padding to the bathroom, then lying awake for hours, unable to fall back asleep. I've tracked these patterns across hundreds of seniors, and I've learned something important. This isn't just insomnia. This isn't just part of getting older. There's always a reason. Let me tell you about a woman I'll call Margaret. I use a different name to protect her privacy. She was 74 when I started caring for her, and her family had mentioned that she wasn't sleeping well. They said it casually, the way you mention the weather. "Oh, mom's up a lot at night. You know how it is." They thought it was normal, just part of aging. She'd been waking at 3 a.m. every single night for almost 2 years by the time I met her. But I started noticing something her family couldn't see because they weren't there in the early mornings like I was. When Margaret woke at 3, she'd go straight to the bathroom. Every time. Then she'd come back to bed and lie there awake, sometimes for hours. I'd arrive at 7:30 and she'd be sitting in her kitchen chair, completely exhausted, telling me she'd been up since 3 again. I started asking questions. How much water was she drinking before bed? Quite a bit, it turned out. She'd have a full glass at 9, another at 10, sometimes more. Why? Because one of her medications made her mouth feel dry, and drinking water was the only thing that helped. So she'd drink and drink, then wake up at 3 needing to use the bathroom, then couldn't fall back asleep. Her body had learned this pattern so well that even on nights when she didn't drink as much, she'd still wake at 3, like clockwork. Within 2 weeks of moving her water intake earlier in the day and finding other ways to manage the dry mouth, she was sleeping through the night. 2 years of sleepless nights. 2 years of exhaustion. And the solution was that simple. But her family didn't know to look for it. They just thought this was how things were now. If you're watching this because you've been awake at 3 in the morning more nights than you can count, I want you to know something. You're not imagining this. This exhaustion you feel, this worry that maybe this is just how it will be forever. I've sat with so many people carrying that same fear, and I need you to hear this. You are not alone in those dark hours. And this pattern, this 3 a.m. waking, it has meaning. If you're watching this for a parent or someone you love, and you keep hearing, "I was up at 3 again," mentioned casually, like it's nothing, I want you to know it's worth paying attention to. Not to panic, just to notice, to ask questions, to track the pattern. Your body is trying to tell you something at 3 in the morning. It's communicating. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to share what I've learned from 15 years of being there in those early morning hours, watching these patterns, figuring out what they mean, because I've seen what happens when families ignore this, and I've seen what happens when they pay attention. The difference is everything. After 15 years of tracking these patterns, I've learned to recognize what 3 a.m. waking actually means. And the first thing I need you to understand is this. There's a reason it happens at 3. It's not random. Your body has a rhythm, and that rhythm makes you most vulnerable to waking between 3 and 4 in the morning. Here's what's happening. Your body produces a stress hormone called cortisol. Everyone's cortisol naturally starts to rise in the early morning hours, usually between 3 and 4 a.m. It's part of how your body prepares to wake up for the day. But as we age, our sleep gets lighter. We spend less time in deep sleep and more time in what's called light sleep. So when that cortisol spike happens at 3 a.m., you're more likely to surface completely awake instead of just shifting slightly and staying asleep. That's the biological part. But here's what matters more. That cortisol spike on its own shouldn't be waking you up every single night. If it is, something else is going on. Your body is trying to tell you something. And this is where the pattern recognition comes in. I started noticing something years ago when I'd arrive at clients' homes in the early morning. Some of them would tell me they'd been up since 3, and I'd ask what they did when they woke. Some went straight to the bathroom. Others just lay there, wide awake, sometimes for hours. That difference matters. The ones who went straight to the bathroom, they were dealing with something physical. Maybe they'd had too much water before bed. Maybe a medication was making them need to urinate more often. Maybe their bladder just wasn't holding as much as it used to. But here's the thing. Once you're up and moving, walking to the bathroom, turning on lights, your body gets the signal that it's time to be awake. And then falling back asleep becomes so much harder. This is what was happening with Margaret. Remember, she'd been waking at 3 a.m. for 2 years. Every single night, straight to the bathroom, then lying awake until morning. When I started asking questions, I learned she was drinking water constantly in the evening because her blood pressure medication made her mouth feel dry. So she'd drink a big glass at 9, another at 10, sometimes more. Then she'd wake at 3 needing the bathroom urgently. Her body had learned this pattern so well that even on nights when she didn't drink as much, she'd still wake at 3 anyway, like an internal alarm clock she couldn't turn off. We worked with her doctor, changed the timing of when she took that medication, found other ways to manage the dry mouth during the day, moved all her water intake to earlier hours, and within 2 weeks, she was sleeping through the night. 2 years of exhaustion, and the solution was adjusting when she drank water. This isn't just about getting old. There's always a reason, always. And once you understand what your body is trying to communicate, you can start to address it. Now, some of you watching this might be thinking, well, I wake at 3, but I don't get up to use the bathroom. I just lie there. That's a different pattern, and it tells me something different. It might be anxiety. It might be blood sugar dropping too low. It might be something we'll talk about in a moment. But the point is this: the pattern has meaning. The time has meaning. What you do when you wake has meaning. Your body isn't betraying you. It's trying to help you understand something. If you're finding value in what I'm sharing, I'd appreciate knowing you're here. Comment the number 3 below if this is helping you understand your own sleep patterns better. And if you haven't subscribed, I share these insights every week from my 15 years of caregiving work. Now let me tell you about the causes that families almost always miss. These are the things hiding in plain sight. The patterns I see because I'm there every weekday, while families are visiting on Sundays and seeing someone who looks fine. Medication timing is one of the biggest ones. When you take a medication, matters just as much as what medication you're taking. If you're on a diuretic for blood pressure or heart issues and you take it late in the day, it's going to wake you up at night to use the bathroom. Same with certain steroids. Some blood pressure medications can affect your sleep cycles in ways most people don't realize. I've watched people suffer through months of sleepless nights. And when we looked at their medication schedule with their doctor, the solution was as simple as moving one pill from evening to morning. Here's another one that surprises people: blood sugar. If your blood sugar drops too low overnight, your body releases adrenaline to bring it back up. That adrenaline surge can jolt you awake at 3 in the morning like an alarm going off. This is especially true if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, but it can happen to anyone. If you're eating dinner very early, say 5 or 6 p.m., and then not eating again until morning, that's a long stretch for your body to go without fuel. Some people wake with their heart pounding, feeling anxious, not understanding that it's actually their blood sugar talking. But the hidden cause I see most often is the one people least expect: emotional pain showing up as physical symptoms. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Robert. I use a different name to protect his privacy. He was 81 when I started caring for him. His wife had passed away about 3 months before I met him. His daughter called me because he wasn't sleeping. She thought it was just grief insomnia, which made sense. But when I started working with Robert, I noticed something specific. He wasn't just lying awake sad. He was waking at 3 a.m. in a panic, heart racing, sometimes sweating, sometimes feeling like he couldn't catch his breath. His daughter would visit on Sundays and see him putting on a brave face, telling her he was fine, managing. But I was there Monday through Friday. I saw him exhausted every single morning. I saw the fear in his eyes when he talked about the nights. He thought he was losing his mind. He didn't connect what was happening at 3 a.m. to the loss of his wife. But I'd seen this pattern before. Grief and anxiety don't always show up as sadness. Sometimes they show up as panic at 3 in the morning. We got him connected with a grief counselor, established a calming routine before bed, started addressing the anxiety that was manifesting in his body. And slowly, over weeks, the pattern shifted. He started sleeping better, not perfect, but better. Seniors often don't connect emotional pain to physical symptoms, but I've watched this pattern too many times to ignore it. If you've recently lost someone you love, if you're carrying worry about your health or your future, if you're feeling lonely or anxious during the day, that can absolutely show up as 3 a.m. waking. Your body holds what your mind is carrying. And then there's another woman I cared for. I'll call her Eleanor. She was 69. She'd been waking at 3 for months, but she kept telling everyone she was sleeping fine. I was there one morning when she woke. She came out of her bedroom drenched in sweat, her nightgown soaked through, clearly uncomfortable. But when I asked about it, she brushed it off, said it was nothing. Just got a little warm sometimes. The family saw her on Sundays, dressed nicely, looking put together. I saw her every weekday morning. I saw what she was minimizing. Night sweats aren't nothing. They're your body telling you something. In Eleanor's case, her doctor discovered a thyroid issue. Once it was treated, both the sweating and the 3 a.m. waking resolved. If you're waking drenched in sweat, if your heart is racing, if you're feeling panicked or anxious in ways that seem disconnected from your actual circumstances, these aren't things to ignore. They're not just part of getting older, they're signals, and they deserve attention. The good news is, once you understand what's really happening, there are things you can do, and that's what I want to talk about next. Here's what I need you to hear. I've watched 70-year-olds who haven't slept well in months start sleeping through the night again. I've seen people turn this around. And the good news is, you can start figuring this out today with something simple. Track the pattern for 1 week. Get a notebook or use your phone, whatever works for you. Every morning when you wake up, write down what time you woke during the night. Write down what happened before bed. What did you eat for dinner and when? How much did you drink in the evening? Write down how you felt when you woke. Did you go to the bathroom? Were you feeling anxious, hot, cold, heart racing, just lying there wide awake? 1 week of tracking will show you patterns you can't see when you're just living through it night after night. You'll start to notice things. Oh, every time I eat late, I wake up. Or, the nights I have that second glass of water at 9, I'm up at 3, needing the bathroom. Or, when I'm worrying about something, that's when the waking happens. Once you see the pattern, you can start with the simple fixes. Move dinner earlier if you're eating late. A lot of people don't realize that eating a heavy meal at 7 or 8 p.m. means your body is still working to digest when you're trying to sleep. Try eating by 6 if you can. If your blood sugar is dropping overnight, a small protein snack before bed can help. Not a full meal, just something to stabilize you. Limit fluids after 6 p.m. I know this is hard if medication makes you thirsty. Talk to your doctor about timing. Maybe you can take that medication earlier in the day. Maybe there's a different option. But drinking a lot of water right before bed is setting you up to wake at 3, needing the bathroom. Keep your bedroom cool. A lot of seniors keep their homes very warm, especially at night. But your body temperature needs to drop slightly to stay asleep. If you're waking up hot or sweating, try turning the heat down or cracking a window. Sometimes it's that simple. Now here's when you need to bring this to your doctor. If the 3 a.m. waking started suddenly and you can't connect it to anything obvious, that's worth mentioning. If you're waking drenched in sweat, if your heart is racing, if you feel panicked in ways that seem out of proportion, those are signals your body is trying to send. If you've tried the simple fixes for 2 weeks and nothing is helping, it's time to talk to your doctor about your medications, your overall health, what else might be going on. Let me tell you about two people I cared for, both 78, both waking at 3 a.m. every night. One woman, I'll call her Joyce, changed her dinner timing from 7:30 to 5:30, started limiting water after 6. Within 3 weeks, she was sleeping better. Not perfect every night, but most nights she was sleeping through. The other, a man I'll call Frank, needed his doctor to adjust when he took his blood pressure medication. Moved it from evening to morning. Within a month, both of them were sleeping better. Your body wants to sleep. I've seen this over and over. We just need to figure out what's in the way. Sometimes it's as simple as when you're eating or drinking. Sometimes it's medication timing. Sometimes it's addressing grief or anxiety that's showing up physically. But there's always something you can do. Always. You don't have to figure this out alone. Track it. Try the simple changes. Talk to your doctor if you need to. And remember, Margaret was waking at 3 for 2 years before we figured out it was about water timing. 2 years. And then she was sleeping through the night in 2 weeks. Robert's anxiety needed support, but once he got it, his sleep improved. Eleanor's thyroid needed treatment, and then the night sweats, and the waking stopped. Your body is trying to help you. It's communicating. Listen to what it's telling you. And know that change is possible. I've seen too many people reclaim their sleep to believe you're stuck with this forever. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one more thought about rest and what you deserve. I've spent too many early mornings with seniors who thought they just had to accept sleepless nights, who believed that waking at 3 a.m. was simply their new reality, part of getting older, something they'd have to live with for the rest of their lives. And I'm making these videos because I need you to know that's not true. If you've been lying awake at 3 in the morning, wondering if this is just how it will be now, I want you to hear this. It doesn't have to be. Your body is talking to you at 3 a.m., and you deserve to understand what it's saying. You deserve rest. You deserve to wake up feeling like you actually slept. And more importantly, you have the power to start figuring this out. I know how exhausting this is. I know what it's like to drag yourself through the day on broken sleep night after night. I've sat with people carrying that exhaustion, and I've seen the toll it takes. Not just on your energy, but on your mood, your clarity, your hope. When you're not sleeping, everything else feels harder. I understand that. But I've also seen what happens when someone finally understands what their body has been trying to communicate, when they track the pattern and discover it's about medication timing, when they realize their dinner schedule is affecting their blood sugar, when they get support for grief they didn't know was waking them in the night. I've watched people reclaim their sleep, and I've seen how it changes everything. If you're watching this for someone you love, I want to say something to you too. You're already doing something important. You're paying attention. You noticed when they mentioned waking at 3. You're here, trying to understand, trying to help. That matters. You can't be there every night. You can't fix everything, but you can encourage them to track the pattern. You can ask what time they're eating dinner, what medications they're taking at night. You can help them bring this to their doctor if it needs medical attention. Your care makes a difference. The 3 a.m. hours have taught me something over these 15 years. They've taught me that the body is always communicating, always trying to help us understand what it needs. And when we learn to listen, when we pay attention to the patterns instead of just accepting struggle as inevitable, we give ourselves the chance to heal, to rest, to sleep through the night again. If this video helped you understand what's been happening in those dark hours, I'd love to know. Comment below and let me know if you're going to try tracking your sleep pattern this week. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I share what I've learned from 15 years of caregiving because I believe these later years can be some of the most meaningful of your life if we approach them with awareness and intention. Start with tracking for 1 week, just 1 week. Notice the patterns. Try the simple changes. And if you need to, bring this to your doctor. Don't accept sleepless nights as your sentence. Your body wants to sleep. I've seen this happen too many times to believe you're stuck with this forever. Take care of yourself. Listen to what your body is trying to tell you. You're not alone in those 3 a.m. hours, even when it feels like you are. And I'll see you in the next one.